You're wearing something, so I'm going to wear something.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi,
Oh my God, we are
guys.
all If These Ovaries Could Talk merch on our head right now.
If they could talk, they'd be saying a lot behind this.
Well, it is the holiday season and you can buy our merch,
Sure
but I
is.
do want to say this merch isn't available in our current merch store. So don't get too excited about this hat. But
the mask is.
Yes, the mask is available, but my building decided that today was an awesome day to shut the heat off and the hot water. And my hair was not in prime state. And I was like, we're going to merch it up today.
You got to do one of the buns. You got to do a bun on the top of the head.
Wait, Jimmy, what's the thing you want us to do? What's the thing you want us to do?
It's the show that nobody asked for, the only reason that we shower. If these ovaries could talk is live right now.
I mean, yes, at this point, it's just, I know you're going to cut me off, so I can't even think of what to, because I'm just waiting for the cut off. Like at this point, I know your deal. I know the spiel.
It is so fun to cut you off in the middle of a sentence with that video. It's just my favorite thing to do in the live stream. I don't know why
that's so fun for you. Hi, Sage. It's so good to see you again. No, I mean, to see your comments again. I'm not seeing Sage. I saw your picture, Sage, but yeah.
So we do have to address the elephant in the room, which is this is not in the merch store. This is not in the merch store. But it used to be.
She's covering up her greasy hair is what's happening. That's
not that greasy. It's just a little like fakakta. It's a little like things are going everywhere.
I just got the booster shot and I am a hot mess. I'm better. I got it yesterday, so I'm better today.
How did you feel?
Oh, awful.
You did? Really?
I was fine. I got it at like 10 a.m. and I was fine all day. And then at 8 o'clock, all of a sudden, you know when you start hunching over because your whole body hurts, you know what I mean? Like that feverish feeling, but I don't think I had a fever, but I was just feeling like, and I was walking like a little old lady and I was like, what is wrong with you? And then I started shaking. I was like feverish, but I didn't have a fever anyway. I know.
I have to say, I got the booster the week before and I didn't have any side effects or anything. I was like, okay.
Oh, well, it hit me hard. And I'm finally kind of getting back to myself, but I've been out of sorts all day. Happy Thursday, Andrea.
Listen, it's just good that you got it, Jamie, that we're all boosted up. You know what I'm saying?
We're all boosted up. That's the most important thing. And my daughter gets her second shot on Monday, which is very exciting. Yeah, see, Sage, a lot of us are getting sick from it. Of course, my wife, Anne, who feels nothing, was like, I don't feel a thing. It's fine.
So what? I'm fine. I know Mary felt
why I make
like
her a trucker.
Over. I know. Oh, we always do. We always turn into that.
I've been watching that Tampa Bay show. I mean, it's like so awful and bad, but good at the same time. And they are nurses. I appreciate that they're nurses. They're good people. Tampa Bay's is on Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. I don't remember. Somebody tell her. It's a reality show with lesbians. Anyway.
I will not be watching, so I don't care where it is, but I love that you care. I love that you care.
It's a bunch of young lesbians who are like still partying, and it's fun. It's cute. It's funny.
Well, remember when we were fun and young lesbians, Jamie, and we partied and things like that?
I was ever fun.
I was fun.
I don't know. Fun. You went out a lot. I know your group. It's my wife's group. You guys were out all the time. All right, let's talk about this article.
Okay, Jamie. So this came from a listener. Colleen Bouch sent us this article, and Colleen, I'm so sorry if I just butchered your last name. And what I love about Colleen,
I just want to add, my friend also Safatia sent me this too. It's been making the rounds.
You good? Okay.
No, good.
Colleen, it was behind a paywall and I couldn't get to it. And bless her heart, she cut and pasted it and sent it to us, which I thought was a very nice thing to do.
Yes.
But go ahead, Jamie. It was such an interesting article.
Really interesting. I want you to introduce the article because you sum things up way better than I do.
I mean, that puts some pressure
on. But as a rule.
Essentially, it was a woman who, somebody looked just like her twin, but she did 23andMe and found out through 23andMe that she had this half brother. She got an email that was like, "Hey, we're related," and she was like, and they thought, of course, that her father and his mother had an affair. And it was like new. Turned out that both of their fathers had some issues with male fertility and went to a sperm bank. And they
didn't tell and so they found each other. And so they developed this relationship. And this woman talks about in the article about how excited she was to finally have a sibling or a dibling, and how they developed this strong bond right from the start. And then they decided, let's find, what did they call him? Our guy. Let's find our guy.
Our guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They called him our guy because who is the biological, the donor, I would say
the donor. And they said, let's find him. So they reached out to the guy, and the guy was actually very nice and kind and was willing to meet them. And they met him and have created kind of like a blended family that is still growing and morphing as it goes. And it was just a really cool article, and
it really was, and there was no negative, there was no negative slant to it. They weren't trying to blow it up and make it be like, and then there was 800 of them. It was so lovely. But I was also really fascinated with all the points about kind of the nature versus nurture. When she met the sibling and the guy, let's just keep calling him the guy because that's what they called him.
That's what they called
that she saw physical traits, just all of that part of the science. I find the lines so
around, we shared the same lines around our eyes, she said. And it was fascinating. And she said, the nurture versus nature thing, which my whole family, after I found out about this donor, was like, it's all about nurturing. It doesn't matter. That was just genetics. And then she was like, well, when I started to see our characteristics that we shared, and how the donor said to her, I haven't seen my mother in 20 years or something, and I see her a little bit in your face. Didn't he say that at one point, or did I make that up?
Yeah. Oh yeah, when he first saw her, he said, I have not seen that face in so many years. I was like, what? That's amazing.
That's deep. And I just love that it ended well. Everybody is well adjusted to it. It's not one of those stories that these people are traumatized by it. And here's the line that I love the most, and it's in one of the last paragraphs. She says, life and human connection should be celebrated no matter how weird the circumstance. I absolutely love that. I absolutely live by that. We have donor conceived children. Mm-hmm. I have to raise my children with the idea that if we meet multiple donor siblings, we're going to celebrate until my children tell me otherwise and they have a different experience of this. I am going to show them that it's important to celebrate all the life in all its forms that comes to us.
Well, more love is more love.
That's how we're
how
living.
We look at it. Yeah.
Until our children tell us otherwise.
Yeah,
which we know that could happen.
It's kid led.
Yes.
And what's so interesting is that today we have
so deep.
For how many years, Jamie, have we tried to get somebody
since we started this
from a sperm bank on our show? Today,
5 years.
We have somebody from California Cryobank, but we did want to talk about California Cryobank because they are. I mean, we're really open and honest about how we have Patreons and we have sponsors. Well, today's episode is brought to you by California Cryobank, so we wanted to take a minute to talk about them before we bring in the good Dr. Schmanke.
Yes. Since our guest today is the Chief Medical Officer. Dr. Schmanke from California Cryobank. We're going to talk about California Cryobank for a moment. Please bear with us.
Yes. It's a good idea, Jamie. It's important. I mean, because one, California Cryobank they have this whole team of compassionate people. They have genetic reproductive specialists. They have lab technicians, donor coordinators, fertility preservation coordinators, and client service consultants. Come on, Jamie.
Come on. You know what? I actually called client services when we were choosing our donor. And first of all, I was surprised at the level of attention I got when I called. Mm-hmm. I was connected with someone right away who was attentive and totally understood my personal lesbian situation. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel weird.
I do.
And a lot of these conversations can feel weird. Am I right?
They can, Jamie. She
was prepared. This person was prepared. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the lady on the other end wasn't shocked that I was buying sperm with my wife. And when I told her that we were having trouble deciding between two donors, she was really actually very helpful. And she helped me make the decision, to be quite honest, in a roundabout way. I had a great positive experience with California Cryobank.
I mean, I did too. I have nothing but great things to say about them. And here's the beauty. Not only are they the number one recommended sperm bank by physician, they are also number one recommended by these ovaries right here.
These ovaries right here. These ovaries right here.
It's another reason why we love California Cryobank is that they partner with LGBTQ organizations to sponsor family building events nationwide. I mean, they won the family equities, family equalities. I'm having trouble talking today. Thank you, Jamie. 2019 Corporate Impact Award for their contribution to helping LGBTQ families.
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I feel like it's safe to say that LGBTQ families are a huge California cryobank demographic, so it's nice to know that they're doing the work. Am I right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
And they have created a special discounted fertility preservation program for the transgender community. It provides the opportunity to have biological children after transitioning. I mean, that's
Come on.
everything. That's everything
on.
for our
Yes.
community.
This is why I'm so happy to offer this special California Cryobank code to our listeners. Ready?
Yes. Okay. Folks, you're going to use the code OCT for a free special 90-day level 2 donor information subscription. It's $145 value, and money is important on the fertility journey for
Oh my
LGBTQ
God,
folks,
so
right?
important. Yes.
It allows you to see extended donor profiles, including childhood and adult photos, and access to your digital donor keepsake.
Yes. So if you're ready to start the search, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to cryobank.com. You're going to open a free account, and you're going to use code OCT. You're going to activate your free level 2 donor subscription today. That's what I had.
Jamie, I'm going to say it one more time. That's cryobank.com. cryobank.com. Do you like when I use my
beautifully-
radio voice, Jamie?
We should do the whole show in these voices.
No,
What do
what
you
we
think?
should not. What
No,
we should
people are
do.
gonna leave. Yeah, let's
What
bring
we
our
should
guest in.
do is bring in the good doctor.
Dr. Shamanki. Hi. Everybody's
Hi.
clapping. Everybody's
Can
clapping.
you feel? Oh, I
my
wish I
God.
brought her in and then I took her out.
Here she is.
Took her-
Can you?
This is why it
feel
took
our
5 years
excitement?
to get someone on your show.
Exactly.
Because I
Exactly.
kept kicking them out of the room. That's exactly the truth.
First of all, we have to say we've already told Dr. Shamanki how much we love her hair.
It's true.
And I'm feeling very jealous about it, and I feel like I need to get this cut. But that we've talked about that off screen, and we're going to talk about it some more.
Can
We're going to talk
talk
about some more. Yeah.
how
Oh,
Andrea
look at what Andrea.
just bought a vial before coming into our live stream?
Oh, yay, Andrea.
Congratulations!
Is it a vial you had already bought? Was it a donor you already had, or did you just make a new decision? Oh my God, this is amazing. Look, Sage is like, how did we get someone who's so important on a show no one asked for? Exactly. This is shit that no one asked.
These are really
Seriously.
important questions, Sage. Thank
I
you for
know,
asking
I know.
them.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Go.
Tell us about yourself. You are the Chief Medical Officer at CCB. Can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. So CCB, thank you for that lovely introduction, by the way. I know that we've sponsored this or something, but I can tell that you are really sincerely grateful for the services, and that's why I come to work every day. So thank you.
We really
Yes,
are.
I
4
mean, we
kids.
wouldn't have our babies.
4 kids right here.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
So I'm a pathologist. I'm a medical doctor that specialized in pathology. I love my job. I had no idea that a position like this existed. Sometimes people ask me about, my journey to becoming part of the cryobank. And I always sort of plan a cocktail party and say, seriously, I was a little girl and I always dreamed of running a sperm bank. And people believe me, which is kind of amazing. But
I'm going to say that from now on. I always
and then
dreamed
they're
of
like,
running
what
my own
happened,
sperm
Jamie?
bank.
Yeah.
Wow, you're really.
So my background in medicine, I have expertise in women's health and in blood banking, which is what led me to this sort of fabulous intersection, I think, between a regulated place like a reproductive tissue bank and then the clinical space that helps people grow families.
Uh-huh. Oh my God, there's so much here. It's okay. So before we get into all of your responsibilities that you handle at the cryobank,
Is this going to be more about the haircut, Jamie? Is this going to be more about the haircut?
No, but I
Okay.
do want to know.
60?
Yes.
Does look very good. Show me that again. That's very
So
nice. I
cute.
like
Okay,
it.
well, this is my good side, though. We'll start there.
No, I think I like that other side. I like that nice. Okay, I'm gonna cut my hair. Okay, anyway, we want to know about you personally too, though. Do you have kids? I think you're a mother. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I am. I'm almost embarrassed to say my oldest is 20. I have a 20-year-old.
You
child.
shut up.
No, you don't.
That is not possible with that
No,
face.
you
Yeah.
don't. Get
You
out of here.
Stop it.
And
Stop it.
he's a boy man. He loves his mother. He's
That's
lovely. And I have a 16-year-old daughter who is wonderful and adorable. But oh my God, I can go on and on about how interesting parenting becomes when they suddenly become little mini adults that are ready to leave childhood. And And you go from having these people that just adore you and love you and think you're their hero to all of a sudden, I'm the reason why everything that's wrong with her is my fault. Oh, but yeah, I know we're definitely getting off topic.
No, that's okay.
No,
I have
that's
my
what we
daughter's
do.
almost 13.
She's on the precipice.
And it's like, and I can already feel like she's already starting to tell me all the things, and I'm having to say things like, "Who do you think taught you how to use the computer?" Like it's already getting.
My God.
We're already there.
My God, I'm scared. My kids are 8 and 4. I'm so far away, and I'm scared.
And
so scared.
And my daughter is gay, and so she's, very much all of her friends are queer. Her best friend is a trans man, so she's very much in this. And by the way, like, that was my friend group. And it's so hard to say to your kid, like, yeah, I know what you're doing. Like, that was me. I get it. You didn't invent this.
They think they invented it.
She's always like, oh, you wouldn't get it,
Yes. And also, I mentioned I'm the doctor at a cryobank? Like, you have all of it on
they don't care what you do. They don't care what you do. It's not glamorous. You're not cute. It's just
come
the way
to me
it is.
when you're ready to make those babies, honey. Come to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so can you tell us about your, like, what it is you do on the day-to-day at California Cryo?
And try to and for me, just dumb it down because I don't know all those big medical terms. So
I think she got that, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the best way to sum up my job here is that I'm really the one that's ultimately responsible for optimizing the health and the welfare of the people who use our sperm, obviously of the children that we're hoping that clients conceive, and then the sperm donors. And I think about it in terms, I mean, there's the obvious, physical health, right? Mm-hmm. And things like optimizing genetics outcomes, like that's the medical school stuff. But, I spend a lot of my time thinking about how do we create an informed consent process for donors so that we believe them when they say that they, are going to be available and receptive to contact by donor conceived kids when they're adults.
Right.
How do I help sort of foster and nurture what I think of this sort of these families as like an ecosystem, right? So you have like nuclear families, you have a donor at the center, biologically, and then there's these kids that grow up and some of them want to know each other and some of them don't want to know each other. And so like navigating through that experience of how do you give somebody, you acknowledge their right to privacy, but at the same time, try to give these donor conceived kids as much access to information as you possibly can, because like that 23andMe article, that New York Times article about 23andMe, that's like completely what it's about, right? Like we all want to know as much as we can about ourselves, the good, bad, the ugly, but like we want to know. And so a lot of my time is really thinking about like, how do we create policies and how do we educate and how do we make sure that the donors that are coming into our program are totally down with that mission.
And you still do have closed donors though, right? Or is that something that's like being
phased out?
Phased out, that's the term I'm looking for.
Yeah, there's still some on the catalog, but those guys have been on the catalog for many years. So I joined California Cryobank in 2013. And I knew nothing about this, right? I was in private practice. I was a breast cancer specialist. I was overseeing a blood bank. The founders, the physicians who founded California Cryobank founded it in 1977. So things were a little different.
Yeah.
And they're like pretty woke for old white guys, but like it was what it, it only gone so far. And so when I came here, I was instantly inspired by the mission and the people, and like it was so accepting and creative and sincere, right? But one of the first things that I noticed was, like there's no such thing as anonymity. Like we can't be promising.
Not anymore, right?
Right.
Before you could just swab your cheek and send your DNA to, Silicon Valley. So this was just internet. So we actually require any donors in our program to be ID disclosure, and that's been the case for several years now. And so, Yeah, I mean, there's still some donors that are on the catalog that entered the program a long time ago, and we can kind of talk about the reasons why. I haven't yanked them off the catalog, even though they technically came in under a different vintage and a different sort of way of thinking.
Sounds like
but yeah.
champagne.
What's that?
Sounds like champagne.
Oh
Like
yeah,
from the
No,
from the
I-
1970
yeah.
reserve.
This one is aged.
Yes, this one is overaged. This one probably, yeah,
It's more like stinky cheese.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You want to go into that? And
Yeah, and what's the process of how do you like select and who makes it?
there's
all
so
that.
many questions.
We have so many.
I
questions.
know.
Because,
There's so
you
many
know,
questions. I
yes.
know, my God. I mean, my husband always asks. Like, he's just a dude, so he'll be like, "Are you like going to work? What do you do? Like stir the tanks?" Yeah, I'm like,
Oh
You're gross.
God. Oh God.
no.
Oh
but-
God.
So,
Stir your tank.
so I can tell you a little bit about sort of the process of becoming a donor. I think it's really great insight into what we do here.
Yes.
And the process takes about 6 months to qualify for a donor. And I think sometimes it takes me like that long to explain the process, so I'll try to keep it interesting. But I would divide the screening process into 5 major sections, sort of based on the goals, like what we're trying to achieve. So the first one is we're looking for donors who are properly altruistically motivated, right? There's this really unfortunate stereotype about donors, and this may have been the case in the 80s and early 90s, that they're just here to make money and it's transactional, but that just doesn't hold up. And it's actually not fair to a donor to let him believe that that's the case, because we bug these guys for the rest of their lives. Like, this is a lifetime commitment. And so we want to make sure that we're even recruiting people with an altruistic message. It's all about being a hero. It's not about making money for things you're doing anyway, So, which, those things may have worked in the past, but it's just not in line with our message. And only about 1% or fewer than 1% of applicants actually ultimately make it into the program. So, like, we're pretty selective.
How do you test for altruism, and how do you do that? I know they do that with surrogates as well, so it can be done. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think. I mean, and of course, none of this is perfect, right? Like, I can't see into the brain of everybody, obviously, but one of the best things that we do, that we started several years ago as well, is psychological evaluations. So we have this network, these people, they're all women that do this, big surprise, that are reproductive oriented PhD psychologists that are like experts in third-party reproduction. They're independent. They don't work for us. And they meet with all of our donors. And there's a 2-step process. One is they do this psychometric testing, which it's a nice way to sort of standardize. And this testing basically takes a donor's results and compares him to thousands and thousands of other people who have taken these tests, and says, okay, are you like 2 standard deviations from the mean of narcissism? I mean, find me a 24-year-old man that isn't a little narcissistic and a little grandiose and doesn't think everybody wants his sperm. But like, we're looking for things that are standing out. But the thing that's really, really important about the psych eval is that this is where these donors, they sit with somebody who's not working for the cryobank, who will take as long as it takes to say, so tell me about your family. Like, do they know you're doing this? Are you in a relationship? Are you going to tell your partner about this? What about your kids someday? How do you feel about LGBTQ family building? That's what we do, right? And how do you feel about the fact that they're going to know who you are? Like, they're going to know who you are immediately, even if we're all playing by the rules and respecting each other's privacy. Like, it's not hard. You're going to have probably an adult photo on this website, so like, your parents are going to find out. And so, you get a lot of information from that. And I would say, like, a lot of guys, they come out of that session and they just self-select out. They say, it's not for me.
Interesting.
But that's actually really good to hear. I mean, it's really great to hear that you are so stringent with that process. Yeah. Yeah, like Kim says.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
and I do want to just to interject. Who's ringing? Somebody's ringing.
That's me. That's me. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just my daughter. She'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Is she on the is
Don't
she
worry.
on the subway?
We've got another mother. She'll call her next. It's
She's
fine.
But when we went to make my second kid, we ran out of sperm. We wanted to use the same donor. I contacted this California Cryobank and asked for more sperm. He was retired, and California Cryobank reached out to him and brought him out of retirement for us. I just feel like that's why I believe my donor is an amazing person. The one I chose is like superb. That's what and that's the story I'm going to tell for the rest of my life.
It's I mean, I'm not, this isn't like commercial at all when I say that, like, these guys, like, I get chills when I read the things that they write. You know, we ask them to write something, write anything you want, and they'll sometimes write letters to these future children, and they just, I'm not even that mushy, but like this place makes you really mushy because it's all about like people that are so grateful for their families and donors that are so grateful to help. And it's like, I'm like crying every day. So,
I always say it's nice that you have all those different things too, because you never know what the piece of information that you're going to connect to as a person who's purchasing is. Like we had this one, and we were so into this one donor for the longest time. He was on our list. And then as we got more information, we got down to like the staff impressions. I don't know if y'all still do that, but it was like before
the staff impressions.
Yeah, because it was before adult pictures were a thing. And you were always just trying to figure out, like, are they cute? And so you were like reading the staff impressions like you were a detective. And then finally they said, he's so attractive, he's so handsome. And then they said they compared him to Chris Martin, and both me and my wife were like, oh well, forget it. I was like, I don't want the guy from Coldplay. I was like, oh, it's next. But it's like you just never know what the thing is you're going to get connected to. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, completely true. Yeah. I mean, we've tried to even like figure out like what are the donors that people connect with? Like, should we be recruiting this kind of guy or that kind of guy? And there's no pattern to it whatsoever. It is such an individual and personal thing. I mean, like they're humans. You're finding a human that jives with you and your family. And sometimes people, when they're first getting started and they're totally overwhelmed because there's this big catalog and there's like, you know, it's like Amazon, you filter for all of these things and you're like, what's important to me? What do I filter for? And you don't even really know what's going to be important to you until you see it. And and it is so incredibly individual and personal. But something that's like kind of amazing to me, I feel like I should do a study on this if it's not creepy, is like we will have such similar types of people pick the same donor, like people that have never met each other. Like, you know, if you have to reach out to families and give them updated information, it's like, oh, it's going to be this type of family. It's like, this is not scientific at all, but it's incredible. Like there is something.
You know what's funny? You know what's really funny, Dr. Shamonkey? We interviewed a couple who were really close with their donor, the donor siblings and the families, and they would do vacations together. And they said something so profound in the episode. You know where I'm going, right, Robert? They said, something. Did you get interference? What was that?
It was just a ghost. Don't worry about it.
Whoa. They said, when you think about it, we all get along. We all like each other because we all chose the same guy. You know, we all chose the same donor. So, this is a group of
people connected through a donor who vacation together, and they have this group. And I've met a bunch of it's one of my friends, but I've met a bunch of the other people who use the same donor because they hang out. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I wonder what that interference is. It's very strange. But I do also love that you guys
Robin's
really
daughter
do.
Calling back.
Yeah. She's like, Mom,
I need help. And I'm like,
no, I do love that you do prioritize the mental space of these donors and if they really are willing to be contacted, because I know that that's a big concern of donor conceived families at this juncture in time, that the children have this false idea that they can contact the donor, but then the donor can still say no, and you never know. And so just hearing from you guys that at California Cryobank you are really, really, really trying to hone in on the what would you say, psychological
Psychology.
state, the psychology of every donor, and making sure they're altruistic. I think that is such a huge and wonderful I don't know, addition to what is happening now, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it makes our job so much easier in the long run too, because we've been doing this for 45 years.
Yeah.
And so think about how there are kids that are donor conceived from my age from this cryobank, which like blows my mind. And so for all those years up until we have this like ID disclosure orientation, we would have these grown-ups saying, you know, my mom told me I'm donor conceived. Like, can you help me get in touch with my donor? And so often when it goes through the cryobank and we facilitate the conversation and we kind of approach them and say, remember that thing you did in 1984? Like, it goes pretty darn well. So we knew that, like, if you sort of recruit for people that are decent humans and like the, you know, given limitations, but like doing your best to do that, it makes our job 18 years from now so much easier.
Yeah.
And I would just say, like, now with everything that we know, with so much progress in society, and like, I think a really great voice coming out of the donor conceived community talking about how important it is and how they have rights to know where they came from and to know something about themselves. Like, I think as a community, that's all of us listening today have to figure out, like, okay, how do we deliver that in the best way? And probably individually for each family. Like, there's different ways of going about it. So we're figuring out together.
Well, yeah. And you brought up recruitment. How do you recruit? I mean, and I think that's a great opportunity to like dispel all the myths of just trying to get like college students for beer money.
Frat boys coming in for that. And, you know, there's all these misunderstandings out there.
Right.
And fears.
So I mentioned my son is 20.
Yeah.
And so his friends from high school that are still kind of hanging out in the LA area, they send me ads that they're getting targeted on Instagram from us. And I'm like, oh my God.
Like, really?
So it's mostly like digital marketing and targeted ads. I will say that we really don't have a lot of college-aged donors anymore. And that's for a lot of reasons.
Really?
That is like historically, I mean, that's like the historical stereotype is like, you know, I donated sperm to help pay for college. But no, they're really just sort of given all of the screening steps and the time commitment and everything. These are much more typically post-grad aged sort of mid-20s guys, but they're pretty much targeted through, you know, Instagram, Facebook, not that age.
The usual way.
Facebook anymore.
So funny. I never would have thought that that's how you'd be targeting people. It makes complete sense, but I never would have thought of Instagram for that.
And what makes me feel okay about that is that you have such a stringent process once they come to the table. And it's not just a one-time, I'm going to go in and drop some sperm and then make some money. It's not like that. It's a very long process. So that's
a
good
very
to know.
long process. I mean, there's obviously, in addition to that psych screening, I mean, we're screening their actual sperm. Like, you want to make sure that they have a sperm count and that there's a physical health of the sperm itself. You know, you wanted to get the job done. There's genetic screening, which is really robust, and people definitely freak out a little bit when they start to go through this process and they realize that we screen for 280 recessively inherited conditions, and they're like, oh my God, like, how do I navigate this? And my doctor doesn't know what to do. And so we have a whole team of genetic counselors that can help support people through that. But there's pretty robust genetic screening as well. And, you know, and obviously infectious disease and physical screening. I mean, these guys get tested for infectious diseases like very routinely. They have to answer a medical social questionnaire that talks about their sort of risk behavior and sexual partners and, you know, all of these things every time they come in to donate.
Oh, really?
on that note, because I know in the past, most cryobanks did not accept gay donors. Does California Cryobank accept gay donors? And if not, is that changing? Is there a future to that?
It's a great question. So there's this legacy FDA requirement, and it's, applies to blood donors and sperm donors, and it's been a little bit relaxed recently, but it's still pretty unfortunately restrictive. It's not about sexual orientation. It's related to having sex with men. So men having sex with men. It's obviously a relic of the 1980s and HIV. I have talked to the FDA for years about this. So much has changed in medicine, how we screen for HIV, how society thinks about it and mitigates for it. But the FDA doesn't really change very fast with regard to things that are discriminatory, but they can position as being technically in the best interest of the public health. Mm-hmm. So, with regard to sperm donors on our catalog, we don't ask about sexual orientation. Interestingly, we recently had a trans woman who still makes sperm who applied to be a donor. And I was like, cool, that will be very interesting to a lot of people. But it's all about sort of that male sex partners. And I tell people, it's really, sometimes you have a gay male friend or family member that you say, this is really the perfect guy for our families. And there's absolutely a route for that. It's just directed donation. You can still go through the cryobank. We'll do all of that screening. We'll do everything that we do for the sort of, catalog donors.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you can be FDA unqualified. So it's okay to say, have male sex partners. I have this sort of, genetic inheritance issue and things that would ordinarily disqualify a guy, but it's actually okay by the FDA as long as you have informed consent.
So I could bring my best friend to you guys and say, I want this guy to be my donor, and you would do the whole process with this guy because I've given consent. Didn't know that.
Now, but then the sperm would have to be quarantined, correct?
Yes, but it actually doesn't even have to be quarantined as long. So there's all kinds of sperm, in a shorter period of time. So, the FDA, I mean, if you think about it, it really comes down to, for your family, you say, what are the things that I value the most? Do I want to know this person, know him, know his sense of humor, and I'm cool with having him at my Thanksgiving table every year, and I want my child to know him, and we're going to come up with like a cute name for what my child calls him. Right. Like, is that my orientation? And if that's cool with you and your partner and him, that's like a great option for some people. Other people say, my family's a little weird. I don't really want to bring their genetics into your like, it's cool. We'll find somebody online. The sperm bank does all this screening, and I'd rather like not have that intimate a relationship with the biological, sperm component of this baby.
Yeah. And we've talked to families who've gone both routes,
both ways,
and many more.
Yeah. And even for us, it was like, we've talked about, like, at the time, I don't feel the same way today, but it was that I really felt like I don't want anyone else in our family but me and my wife. Like, it's like, we need this part. But I've changed that now since meeting donor siblings and other people that shared my kids' donors. But I did start there. And I do think that people come at it from all different personal perspectives.
Yeah.
And you don't know how your children are going to react to this origin story as well. So that's funny, Kim. She doesn't have enough friends to ask one.
I know. I'm the same way, by the way. I don't know.
You're too busy like building a dynasty and a career. You don't have time for friends.
But I have a question, because there is like concern, especially of donor conceived children, that there's this huge concern that donor conceived children can have hundreds of siblings, and donors can jump from sperm bank to sperm bank and donate all over the place, and then like how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean that's such a frightening concept, and it's not like totally outlandish because there are examples of that happening, right? So
Mhm.
I know that people get really offended when you just shoot that down as though that doesn't happen, because it's happened.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to answer this question. So California Cryobank has always had vial limits, and so there may have been more children that were born in the past, but it's always been a family unit limit, and targeting that family unit limit and only allowing so many vials go out the door to keep within that limit. And we have all kinds of ways of sort of monitoring, getting feedback and knowing sort of how many people are actually successful with those vials, so that you're actually in those limits. And the average number of children per sperm donor is like, not children, family units. It's like individual families, is less than 20, which is too much for some people, but for other people that value the other things that come with that, is like, okay, I get it, right? Like that's part of it. So we have family unit limits. We ship to over 40 countries, and those family unit limits are international. So we're talking about like a pretty big population that you're dividing these families by.
Right.
And then furthermore, there's some countries like the UK and Australia where they regulate how many families can come from one sperm donor, which is like, the nanny state thing. It can be great. It can also be like some people going, please stop telling me how to build my family. But
it's also hard to get sperm there. Like we've talked to people in those countries where they have difficult, same thing with eggs. Like they have difficulty.
There's a shortage
because of the limits and how difficult it is to donate.
Yeah.
So
you guys know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
You know
Sometimes.
exactly what you're talking about. It's so true.
We've talked to a lot of people.
Yes.
There's some people in my donor family that are international, and it was because they lived in countries where it was regulated and they had trouble, and they were thrilled that California Cryobank shipped internationally.
Yeah.
And regulation can be a very positive thing, right? Like there should be some guidelines. There should be some rules. I think, hey, it's great that I joined a company that has a conscience and has been trying to do the right thing for years and is self-regulated in a way that's very positive, and we've only become more regulated. But you could also look at those examples like, Australia or the UK, where when we started shipping sperm to the UK, and keep in mind, so there's limits on how many families a donor can have, and there's limits on donor compensation. And the consequence is that you wind up getting, and this is going to sound really awful, so just forgive me, like a lower quality donor if you have to work around all these other things. And so we started shipping sperm there, and they started looking at our catalog, and they're going, oh my God, these guys are amazing. It's like, well, that's what happens when you can compensate somebody for their time and inconvenience and altruism. It's not, it's so much work to be a donor. Like, why would it be, So anyway, there's negative consequences to having too much regulation, but I completely agree. Like, we need to have some guidelines, and people need to be like ethically minded about this. And it really comes down to like, educate yourself before you pick a sperm donor, whether it's like one of these Facebook guys or whether it's a sperm bank that maybe you don't really know that much about, or, like you gotta ask questions.
Yes. And also on that note, you can ask all the questions in the world. You can do all the research in the world in making your family, and us LGBTQ families are nothing if not very intentional about how we make our families. However, we all know, we're all parents here. Those they come out as humans with their own ideas, their own opinions, and they might be pissed that you went the route you did. And we can't control that. All we can do is be as intentional as possible in making our families and do as much research as we can.
We often say it's the first moment of parenting. Your kids are going to be mad at you about something. That's what it is in our families sometimes.
Sometimes
that's the
but not
LGBTQ
always.
thing.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we can make our sort of private frustrations and mourning process about anything. I think it's really obvious when you're starting like, okay, we don't have a penis in this family, so like we obviously have to make this choice. Maybe like a small penis islander.
I'm so immature. I was like,
I know.
She can't handle. You know,
really
we're
can't.
so
Like, every
about
time I'm
overeating.
like,
And she can't handle when people use sexual terms. It's like really a thing.
hey.
That's
I just
a very funny word, though. I mean, it still makes me laugh. But no, the reality is, it's like, okay, so, you know, some people go through this kind of mourning process where they're like, this isn't fair. Like, why do I have to do this? Like, I'm in love with this person. Why do I have to like depend on some entity that I don't really trust, or like ask this guy that I like who may or may not want to have this, you know, relationship with me? Like, I totally get it. And there are aspects of everything in life that's truly unfair. I think what's more unfair, this is a different conversation, is that, you know, LGBTQ families don't have access to the same healthcare or insurance coverage to build their families. And they're not infertile. They just don't have a penis.
Right.
But
Thank
like,
you.
that's
Or
you know,
ovaries.
that's legit. We should all get angry about that and try to fix that.
Agreed.
But what you do have is, you do have, as you said, an intentionality, and you have more control in some ways. And, you know, it's like those of us who get married, you have sex, you get pregnant, you have a baby, you get divorced, right? It's like, and then we all find ourselves at one point in the circumstance of being parents that realize, oh my God, I only have so much control over this little person. Right. When those moments of fear that come of feeling out of control, you have to just focus on the things that you can control, focus on the why you're having this baby. Know that, as you said, the sperm donor conceived babies are so wanted. Like, you can tell that baby, we wanted you so badly. Look what we did to have you. Look how much we spent. Look how much work we put in. Look at our spreadsheet we put together.
Yes.
Comparing all the potential donors, right?
Yeah. A lot of our families that we talk to actually make their own books, origin story books.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the intention, once again, the intention that goes in. And Sage has a really good question we ask, and then we can close this out. But she says, is there a fixed rate for how donors are paid, or is it scaled for preferred qualities? I've always been curious about that too, Sage. Like,
it's a fixed rate. You know, I think it would be very easy to get into the world of eugenics where you're like, oh, you're prettier than you, and you know, like, no,
this one looks like Tom Cruise, but this one looks like Brad Pitt.
But we don't want him to look like Coldplay.
Yeah, Coldplay. Yeah, no, discount.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All those songs sound, that's just the same song you keep.
I mean, like, come on. I mean, many people find him very handsome. I was just very turned off by that. I was like, no thanks. No, thank you.
I don't even know what he looks like, honestly.
I love that.
This has been so wonderful. Is there anything that you want to leave us with, like, you know, just a bit of advice for folks in our community about what they're doing, you know, when they're doing this? Any bit of advice?
Oh my gosh, I have so much advice. I mean, I think that you have to know there's a ton of options, even in donor sperm. You have to know there's a ton of options in sort of who the donor is that you use. Are you doing a directed donation? Is it somebody you know? Don't assume you need IVF. You may be successful with an at-home insemination, but like, talk to a healthcare provider. This is not a race. There aren't that many baby emergencies. So make sure you're like getting educated and asking questions and getting help through the genetic stuff. And I mean, you could even ask me. I'm happy to talk to anybody with these questions. But I think the other thing
we're going to get a bunch of emails. Can you please email Jamie about
yeah, well,
Dr. Shimonki?
I'll put my 16-year-old on it because she knows everything. So
oh my God, she's the best. I love your 16-year-old.
Who? But I think that it's important to sort of feel excited about and feel safe when you say, what is important to our family? Like, have these conversations, try to prioritize. You are going to get things wrong. You are, with being a parent, you are 100% guaranteed to do it wrong. So
right here.
Do it with love and intention, and do it your best. And like, don't spend too much time mourning the things that are out of your control, and like, get excited about the things that you can control. And I feel like, you know, just with respect to thinking about the where we started with this sort of 23andMe discovery and kind of where the industry is moving, like, I do think it's important to kind of acknowledge the fact that we've evolved a ton as a society. And actually, a lot of those old donor insemination stories really come from the fact that, like, we were doing our best at the time. I wasn't born, so I'm not taking credit, but like, there was actually this belief that if you told a child that their non-biological father was non-biological, that they would fail to bond with that man, because, like, men are not capable of bonding with somebody that's not their child, right? Like, this was the prevailing belief. So we were trying to protect them. And then, oh shoot, internet, 23andMe, ancestry, like, right? So we have evolved as a society. Thank God. I mean, LGBTQ family building has really helped this. It's like, where'd that baby come from? Like, that's obvious.
Yeah. Talk about it.
So I think, like, having those conversations, normalizing it for the kids. And then we have this, like, whole area of academic research now that says, like, these kids are resoundingly normal, happy, well-adjusted, bonded to their non-biological parent, like, yay, family building. And so I think that as a community, we're doing a lot better job. I think we need to acknowledge the things that we did in the past where we made mistakes, but not, like, beat ourselves up over the things that people actually tried to do with good intentions. We've learned.
Yeah, I love that. And also, no, there's no blanket statement or idea that fills every single family. Some children can be told from the start about their donor conceived origin story and still have deep pain and hurt over it, right? We're not saying that across the board, because you are open with your donor conceived child, that they're going to be well adjusted. We're not saying that, but studies show that it is vastly better to be open, and most kids are well adjusted because of it. But there's no blanket statements. Like, we're not saying it's the end all be all. I'm just saying
Jamie and I's kids, they're not well adjusted just because we're the parents.
Because we're a mess.
Exactly.
And I lose my shiznit on my kids on the daily.
Nobody says that anymore, Jamie.
I just said it. I said it. But also, I think we need to just put up Donna Lee's statement one more time, because it's hilarious. When I showed my boss at the time, 25 years ago, the info sheet on the donor, she said, "I don't know these things about my husband. I'm jealous. LOL." So
exactly.
There it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Dr. Shamunki, thank you so much. This was so much information. It was so helpful and just so reassuring. And by the way, thank God it was, because there's nothing either one of us can do about it. We had our kids. But for the people who are our fans and who are watching, who are in the process, I think this is going to be an incredible amount of information that's just going to make them feel so much better, those who are going down this path, about the path.
Yes.
Great. So happy to hear that. And we are happy to sponsor any educational events that can help people feel confident about building families. And I really mean it. I am personally available for advice.
I'm going to be emailing. I'm going to be like, Dr. Shamunki, I don't know what to do with my daughter who's being very bratty right now. Can you help me, please?
Where can people get you on the socials?
Mine turns out before you take my advice on parenting.
Where can people get you on the socials if they want to follow you, Dr. Shamunki?
Oh gosh, what is my social? At Shamunki MD, I think.
I think it's.
I believe that is correct.
Is that right?
I believe that's correct. I tagged you this morning, so I believe that's correct.
You tagged me.
And yes, we tag everyone.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful, and we really appreciate you coming by and spending some time with us today. We kept you longer than we meant to, but we needed to. Honestly,
we always lean in a little closer when it comes to these conversations, because it has to do with our children. So thank you for the time.
My pleasure. Thank you. So great to meet you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Oh my God!
Wonderful.
My God. That was
just
so great.
Wonderful.
Oh God, I feel so much better. I'm
so
glad we talked to her.
I know. I'm going to go out and hug my goddamn kids, but I'm not even going to swear at them.
Goddamn kids.
We have to say a tremendous thank you for California Cryobank for sponsoring this show, for helping us make this content to highlight LGBTQ families, and for helping us make my two kids and Jamie's two kids.
That's really, and for being so friendly every time I've called, and I have called a couple times, and I do want to say when
Stop
I
calling
reached
them,
out,
Jamie. Stop
when I
calling them.
reached out and I was like, I just really want I was so devastated because I was going through infertility. I just really want the same donor, and
Ugh.
they were like, we can help you. We'll contact him, and they said they said there's a family who already has a child by you. Would you mind coming back for them? And he said yes. So they called. He said yes. He wants to come back for you. He heard all about you. So like it's heartwarming. I'm just
It is.
this
It is.
is my
Well,
babies.
and what's exciting too, while we're thanking California Cryobank, we only have one more live stream before we go on our hiatus. We'll be back on January 20th, and I believe it's the January 20th episode. No, it's the in February episode. We're going to be talking about our donor choice stories. We're going to go into depth, like you'll
Well,
be
I just
telling that
told
story.
it,
I'll be
so.
telling about how I went to where did I go? Machu Picchu? No, where did I go? I
Colombia.
went to
No,
Colombia to try to have
Colombia.
a baby by the same donor.
Why
We're going
am
to
I
get into
tell?
that
Why
whole story.
am I saying your story? We should each
I
tell
don't
each
know.
other's stories
I
because we've heard them so
let's
many
start
times.
off and see if we can and get that right. Well, listen, thank you folks. Rate and review the podcast, rate and review our book. Go buy our book, If These Ovaries Could Talk. What's the name of the book,
The things
Jamie,
we've
that
learned
we
about
wrote?
an LGBTQ family.
Yes.
It's just a short title. It's a very
Get it.
short title.
Get it as
On
a holiday
purpose.
gift. Tell everybody you're trying by handing them our book and just be like, just read the book, chapter 11, and it'll be great. And
Or all the
and thank you
chapters.
for coming. Thank you. One
Thank
more,
you.
Jamie,
And
before hiatus.
one more. That's my birthday too. BT Dubs. Okay.
Oh,
I
okay.
did just
Bye,
drop
everybody.
that. All right.
Bye.
Thanks, ovaries. Out.
Out.
Out.